One thing Mike Mentzer and current research agree on is to build muscle, you have to train intensely. The question is, how close to failure do you have to train for the best results? Or do you have to go past failure for maximum muscle growth? There are numerous definitions of failure, and this can confuse the issue. There's volitional failure, or fatigue, where a person voluntarily stops when they feel they've reached failure. With a newer lifter, this could be a long way from actual concentric failure, which is the beginning of Mike's definitions of failure. In between volitional and concentric failure, I'd put technical failure. This is the last repetition you can do with good form. There's a crossover between these three terms, as on certain exercises, an experienced lifter's last rep could meet all definitions. Research papers have another term called repetition maximum. This is the same as concentric failure, the last complete repetition you can perform before momentary muscular failure. This is true failure, when you can no longer complete a full repetition. Technical, concentric, and momentary failure are the big three to keep in mind. Mike still has two more. There's static failure, where you hold a weight in one position without locking out your joints until you can no longer resist the force. The final one is eccentric or negative failure. We use a heavy weight and lower it as slowly as possible, reaching a point of total muscular failure. With exercises like pull-ups or lat pull-downs, this could be done in your last rep, but in most cases you'll need a training partner to help you get the weight in place and rack it. This creates a lot of muscle damage. When doing high-intensity training, it's done on the working set of each exercise. This damage takes longer to recover from, leading us to the question, does more muscle damage equal more muscle growth? The three factors that cause muscle growth are mechanical tension, muscle damage, and metabolic stress. Of these three, mechanical tension is considered to be the primary one, and the best way to keep the tension high is through progressive overload. This is something both Mike and modern research agree on. But we haven't answered the question about muscle damage. Brad Schoenfeld, after reviewing all the available research on muscle damage back in 2012, found a sound theoretical rationale supporting a potential role for exercise-induced muscle damage in the hypertrophic response, meaning that it possibly plays a role. Also noting that muscle growth can occur in the relative absence of muscle damage, so it's not something you need to build muscle. Something else I got out of this paper was that the evidence indicates that there's a point where muscle damage is no longer beneficial and may in fact interfere with the process. This is a good time to mention beginners don't need to be training to failure. As Mike states in his book, High Intensity Training the Mike Mentzer Way, if you've been sedentary most of your life, weight training will represent a radical departure for you. Training to absolute failure may not only be unnecessary, but dangerous. Modern research agrees with this stance. New lifters need to first perfect their form and then gradually increase the resistance to allow their bodies to adapt. Another consideration when training to failure is exercise selection. Certain exercises, especially compound movements like squats, deadlifts, and shoulder presses, have a greater risk of form breakdown that could lead to injury when you train to your repetition max or concentric failure. This risk is even higher when you work out alone. In these cases, choosing to stop at technical failure or even a rep before makes sense. Some exercises are low risk when taking them to failure and beyond. Isolation exercises like arm curls or tricep extensions, even some compound exercises like pull-ups or lat pull-downs, and certain machine exercises are very safe. As long as it can be done safely, it's good to occasionally train to true momentary muscular failure, to understand what it feels like, and to ensure you're training hard enough. In a paper published by a group of leading researchers, including Brad Schoenfeld, states, with regards to experienced lifters, momentary muscular failure should be employed somewhat conservatively, perhaps limiting application to the last set of a given exercise. The reason for this is recovery. They're finding that the more weekly training volume you can do with sufficient intensity and fully recover from, the faster you'll build muscle. This is why they don't recommend taking every set to failure, to shorten the recovery time, which will allow you to increase the training volume. As mentioned earlier, high-intensity training you'll have more muscle damage, requiring a longer recovery period between workouts. For those with a training partner who love to train and don't mind the pain but have limited time, Mike Mentzer's system is an option. Based on current research though, a higher volume program where you stay within 1 to 3 reps from failure and occasionally test yourself on the last set of an exercise by taking it to true momentary failure will build muscle faster. Now, no study has directly compared Mike's system with modern-day research-based recommendations, and that would be an interesting study to see. If you'd like to learn the history of high-intensity training, watch this video next and keep working out while having fun. This is Lawrence from Fit and 50. We'll talk to you again in the next one.